Greetings sailors and welcome back to World of Warships and one of my games in the Lepanto. This is definitely the best game I've had in this so far. So good in fact that I attempted to send it to Jingles, but it was right before the patch hit, so unfortunately he wasn't able to look at it. I had fortunately already recorded it though, so here it is. Now this, like its predecessor, the Panto, is a 15-inch gunned battleship with SAP shells as well as AP, but it has a fair few more guns. It's got quad turrets, and so although the 1.6 Sigma value doesn't seem that great, you kind of make up for it with the volume of shells you can put out. On that note, by the way, you might have noticed in the patch notes that the tiers 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8, I think, was it all of them? Of those tiers, or was tier 7 not in there? No, it wasn't the tier 4, it was tier 5 to tier 8. They all were buffed, which means that they must have been fairly badly underperforming if they all got buffs this quickly after they came out. To be fair, of course, after they've just come out is when Wargaming is most intensively monitoring them, but usually changes like that take a lot longer to happen. So the Cavor got a better reload, the Andrea Doria got better damage on its SAP shells, and both the Caracciolo and the Panto went from 1.6 to 1.7 Sigma. Not huge buffs, but hopefully enough to make them a bit more playable, because previously, especially the tier 6 and the tier 7, the Caracciolo and the Panto, with that rather poor accuracy and not that many guns, were just not fun to play. This, at least now you're at tier 9, does have another benefit apart from just more guns, in that you get that 6th and final equipment slot where you can either choose to buff your reload to around 32 seconds, down from the base of 37 seconds, which is a bit painful, or you can go up from the range of just over 18 kilometers, which again, very painful in a tier 9 battleship, to having 21 kilometers, which is still not great, but it's a bit more workable, especially when you use the spotter plane. And personally, I would, well, I don't know what to recommend. That's up to you. You can tell here I'm using the reload and then relying on the spotter plane for when I need it, because the 37 seconds is just too long for me. But there are people out there that might prefer to have the extra range to work with, because sometimes even getting within, 18 kilometers, especially at the start of a tier 9 or tier 10 game, can get you focused really, really hard, and then you get sunk, and that's no fun at all. You do at least have the smoke to use to disengage, which I kind of have done already. I used it to reposition a bit and then got a very nice broadside shot on that North Carolina. Let's see if I can repeat that on the St. Louis. And indeed I can, although that wasn't my kill this time. It was, however, most of my damage. So this is a really good early start. And it just goes to show that if they don't do all of the overpens, you can get some good results with these guns. It's also helping that I have quite a lot of broadside enemies to shoot at right now. That's definitely always a useful thing. There is actually a Marco Polo opposing on the enemy team, which, as you've seen in a previous replay of mine, lacks the smoke but has 16-inch guns and rather better Sigma, so overall much more reliable in terms of its gunnery. Also still good penetration as well. That's one thing that the Italian battleships generally do not lack, especially when you get to these tiers. Maybe not so true with the 305mm and the 320mm guns that they get. Those are kind of small caliber. I think one of the reasons why they buffed the SAP, particularly on the Andrea Doria, is that it excessively relies on it, whereas once you get to tier 7 and above, you can start to use a lot more of the AP, which again I talked about in the Marco Polo video. So we're pressing this nicely so far. I'm up to 100k damage. We've got 3 caps. We're roughly even on kills, although they do have one more than us. But so far, this is looking okay. This is really looking like we're in a pretty decent position. We are absolutely driving the enemies on this flank back, and hopefully we can take care of them relatively quickly. Although I do seem to be the only one, that wasn't enough lead there, but I do seem to be the only one that's maybe doing any super particular amounts of damage right now. There's quite a lot of healthy enemies still around, considering that there are ships pushing up aside and behind me. This is Targo, by the way. Another broadside ship. They're going to get rather luckier than some of those other ships I was firing at. This should be a really tasty target, but sadly that happens instead. Most of my shells just fall that little bit long, and somebody else manages to get some citadels. I might be able to get the kill though. We'll see if I can get my rear turret around, which I should be able to. In common with the other Italian battleships, it does have a really good turret traverse. That's one of the nice features of this. Now, I smoked here because reasons. I'm not entirely sure what my thinking was right at this moment to use a smoke. It's not like I am under excessive amounts of fire. Maybe I just wanted to try and get off a sneaky shot or two. Although, given the length of the reload, it really is only, you know, like one or two, because the smoke doesn't last all that long. But I did get the Brindisi, so, you know, that was quite nice. It just kind of, looking back at it, feels like an unnecessary use of the smoke. So now we just have to get this Marco Polo down. And they're at half health, but considering their positioning, considering the number of ships behind me, I don't know, it feels like they should be worse off than that. We have also lost the one ship that was left over on the other side, so that group of enemies has now taken that. And there we go, that's another citadel. I was doing really very well for citadels in this particular match. This is the part where I was starting to think maybe it's not actually going that well, just because the Marco Polo is still far too healthy for my liking, considering how many ships are around here. The Scharnhorst, or whatever that was, managed to actually make a getaway. And then, well, I have no idea what state the ships are in that are coming from the other side. If they're particularly low health, that's fine, we can deal with that. I've got a really decent amount of hit points left myself. But if, on the other hand, they are very healthy, then we might start to have some problems. So this Marco Polo, I don't know if people were just firing and missing, like those couple of shots we saw there, or... yeah, like, for instance, the Kutuzov seems to be particularly ignoring them to try and chase after maybe that Scharnhorst, and they are now very, very low health and about to die, so... yeah, considering they had an island they could have used to park up behind and just pew-pew at the Marco Polo, I really don't know what they were thinking. The Amagi that's been behind me the entire time, you know, I'm a reasonably fast ship, but I don't know, I feel like the Amagi could have been maybe a little closer than it was. And we've also got a Sinop back there and our one remaining cruiser as well. Time to switch to some SAP there, although I'm back to that AP now just because it seemed like they were giving me more of a broadside, but no, they're angling, so boo. I can't remember if I have expert loader or not on this, but I guess we'll see very soon. Now, for some reason, our destroyer then decided that they were going to fire in open water, so that's also a really good idea right at this instant. That's definitely a thing they should be doing, and, you know, doesn't make me want to bash my head on the desk in frustration. If they're out of smokes, then just don't fire. Go and try and cap that northern cap point. Do something. Reposition. But instead they were just sat there making themselves a nice easy target. They're not even moving right now. Making themselves a really easy target for this Marco Polo. I have no idea what's going on in that Akisuki player's mind, but yeah. I mean, okay, they were smoked, which we can now see, but still, There's so much more useful things that they could be doing right now. It's not so bad when they're smoked. Okay. I didn't realise that just looking at the minimap, but yeah. Anyway, so now it's me and the Synop's about to die. The Akatsuki might be going for the cap finally, but the enemy ships that are left, including their Musashi, are actually quite healthy. In fact, the Musashi is basically full health. This is really bad news. If the Akatsuki was going to do anything spectacular, now would be the time to do it. I can't remember if the Riga has torpedoes or not, but yeah, that's a by the by. Anyway, a nice SAP hit there. I do want to get this Pommern killed because I know for a fact that they have torpedoes, of course. If they managed to torp the Riga, that would be pretty bad, but not that it matters because the Riga just took a really huge hit from somebody. Okay, that's not so good. We're going to lose them very soon. And then it's just going to be me, the Amagi, and the Akatsuki. And if the Akatsuki had gone to that cap a bit earlier, they might actually have been able to do something about it, but as it is, the Scharnhorst is just going to go in and block it. And yeah, it's not like they now have any support left at all, so yeah. This is starting to not look very good, which is a pity because I'm having a really good game. Even just the start of this game was really good. I'm now having severe doubts as to whether I can actually carry this. So this Pommern backing up bow first over to the AP, the SAP, but this is all now relying on you know, my dispersion not completely sucking. So yeah, if they can manage to back up far enough away that they're not going to be spotted anymore, that's going to be a problem. Talking of problems, there's the enemy destroyer that's left as well. And then that and the Straws are doing very bad things to the Amagi, and maybe the Musashi as well. Don't know if they would have had shots from where they are, but yeah. So much for that Amagi. Oh well. It's fine though, I'm sure I can totally carry this. Now, the Akatsuki has managed to torp the Scharnhorst, which is grand. Scharnhorst actually just kind of blundered around the corner, so maybe they can cap in time. That would be awfully nice, but it would be even nicer if they had capped already at this point. And as it is, I can't really do anything to counter that Z-23. I'm rapidly running out of map. I do have one smoke screen left, but as you can see, the enemy Musashi is one of these players that's quite content to just let other people do the spotting and sit way the hell back and snipe from a very long range. And it's really that factor that's led to them having such a lot of hit points left at this stage. And you'll actually see from their positioning later on. It's going to be kind of funny. You'll maybe be able to judge for yourself what kind of player I'm dealing with, and it's just the fact that they happen to be in a Musashi, which is one of the strongest tier 9 battleships in terms of firepower, that's really ended up being, you know, how things ended up being as they are. So we have that cap at last, but we're losing this cap over here. I managed to reposition enough that you know, I was comfortable opening fire there, but I now wish I could cancel the smoke a little bit early so I could position myself. I'm not quite reloaded again yet, but yeah, it would be nice to know what I'm angling against precisely. 3 heals left, but no smokes. And the Pommern is absolutely something I need to kill if possible. I'm also very wary of the fact that there is a destroyer out there that I have absolutely no counter to whatsoever. If this destroyer messes up, then that's fine. I know roughly where they were, in that they've obviously put smoke down for that Straws, which is a nice bit of team play from the enemy side. But other than that, you know, they could be lurking behind this island, or they could be chasing back down to the south of me, or who knows. Anyway, let's try again with the Pommern. Okay, I really need this Pommern to die. This is the kind of situation where some battleship HE might actually have been quite nice. You just have the possibility of setting some fires. So the Akatsuki's come back over this side, which is, I guess, welcome. There we go. But as close as things are, this Musashi, I think, just maybe has a bit too much health. This is a problem. The Musashi can just basically punch through my armour. Even now, with things being as they are, this Musashi's still just like, yep, I'm going to sit behind an island. Other people can do all the spotting. So there's the Z-23, right at the time when I can't really do anything about it. Because the island, I've just pulled in front of that island. The Straws is there, maybe trying to make a torpedo run. So I'm going to have to show an uncomfortable amount of broadside to this Musashi, which I kind of get away with. But have you seen the Musashi's angling? You can see why I'm going back to AP shells here. The Musashi's clearly thinking, okay, yes, I will get all my guns firing. Okay, but I know exactly where your citadel is, and you're even sitting perfectly still for me to fire at it. So there we go. 30k damage done. Now, while that's been going on, unfortunately, the Akizuki got taken out by the Destroyer and the Straws, and I can only look in so many directions at once. I can only fire at so many things at once, and maybe if I had been looking the other way, I might have been able to help them. Maybe. I certainly have the turret traverse that I could potentially have gotten my guns around in time to do something. Although, of course, there's absolutely no guarantee I would be able to hit and kill that Z-23. The battleship SAP shells are actually capped in the amount of damage they can do to destroyers, unlike the heavy and light cruiser SAP shells. So they're not nearly as effective as you would think if you just had encountered Italian cruisers before. It's in a last-ditch attempt to stave things off, and also incidentally get myself a Kraken, which I don't think I'd even noticed up till that point. I do try and take out that Straws, but at this point there's too little time, I have too little health. It's not going to be a win, sadly. It's just going to be a case of, can I do a bit more damage? The Musashi at least has learned their lesson after me extracting, what, a good 50,000 plus damage out of them through those broadside shots. And they're now angled such that, yeah, I can't really do anything. They, however, can just punch through whatever armor I've got just fine, so yeah. But 264 health, I'm not surviving this next shot. I really am not. The Destroyer could finish me off with its guns at this point. So, 265,000 damage done. Kraken, Confederate, high caliber. And one of those games where I kind of feel like if I'd had a couple of teammates that had done just a bit more, this was in the realm of being winnable. It probably could have been a victory, but when you look at, say, the Amagi and the Kutuzov, the Sinop, the rest of the tier 9s on the team, all scored really badly. Yeah, you know, there was my own actions at the end there that maybe could have made this a slightly different outcome, maybe, but I suspect not, given that the Musashi still would have had the hit points advantage, and actually would have had more hit points than they had at the end of that, because I'd have been firing at the Z-23 and the Straws instead. So I suspect even if somehow I'd finished off both the cruiser and the destroyer, I still would have had a healthy battleship with very tough armour and very big guns to deal with. So I suspect there probably wasn't much more I could have done in that one. But oh well, it was still a good game. It still demonstrated that the Lepanto's guns can be really quite nice sometimes. It's just a pity that some of my teammates weren't pulling just that little bit harder. Anyway, hopefully you enjoyed this game, and if you did, you can do all the usual things down underneath the video, and of course, as always, stay tuned for more.